AITA for not allowing my brother to bring his girlfriend to my wedding after she insulted my family. I, 28F, am getting married in a few months, and things have been hectic. My fiancé, 30M, and I have been planning this for over a year, and we've been looking forward to it for a long time. It's going to be a small, intimate wedding with around 100 guests, mostly family and close friends. We decided to keep it pretty simple because we both want a laid-back, fun celebration, but it's still been a lot to organize. The issue started when my brother, Jake, 26M, started dating this girl, Emily, 25F, about a year ago. At first, she seemed nice enough, polite, friendly, and she and I got along just fine. But over time, I started noticing some things that didn't sit right with me. She had this tendency to make little comments that felt off. At first, I chalked it up to her just being a little awkward or trying too hard to fit in with the family. However, over the past few months, those little comments turned into full-blown insults. The most recent incident happened at a family gathering a few weeks ago. My family and I were having a casual Sunday dinner at my parents' house, and Emily came along with Jake. During the meal, the conversation turned to wedding plans, specifically the food. My fiancé and I are not big fans of fancy, overpriced food, so we decided to go with a buffet-style dinner with comfort foods, mac and cheese, sliders, chicken wings, etc. Nothing extravagant, just hearty, simple food that everyone can enjoy. Emily, who had been relatively quiet up until then, suddenly piped up and said, "Wow, I guess it's no surprise that you're doing cheap food. It's definitely very you, isn't it?" I was taken aback, and everyone else at the table fell silent. I asked her what she meant by that, and she just shrugged and said, "Well, you're always talking about how you don't care about things like having a nice wedding, so I figured you wouldn't care about the food either." I was offended by that. I had never said anything like that. In fact, I had been upfront about wanting a wedding that reflected who we are and not adhering to some extravagant ideal. But to imply that we were somehow cheap for going with comfort food really rubbed me the wrong way. My fiancé, who had been quiet up until that point, also looked annoyed, but he didn't say anything in the moment. I tried to brush it off, but Emily didn't stop there. Later in the evening, when people were talking about the wedding dress, Emily made another comment. She said, "I can't believe you're spending that much on a dress for a wedding that's not even going to be all that impressive. I mean, if it was me, I'd rather put that money towards something that actually lasts, like a house or a vacation. But I guess some people just care about the show." At this point, I had had enough. I looked at my brother and asked him if he was going to let his girlfriend keep insulting me and my wedding plans. He shrugged and said, "She's just being honest." I snapped back, "Well, honesty doesn't have to be rude." My parents were uncomfortable, and we ended the evening early, but the tension lingered. I later texted Jake and told him that I didn't appreciate the way Emily had treated me and my fiancé, and that if she couldn't respect our choices, she wouldn't be welcome at the wedding. I said that it wasn't about her opinions on the wedding, but rather the way she expressed them and how hurtful they were. Jake called me later that night, upset. He said I was overreacting and that Emily didn't mean any harm. She was just blunt and didn't get why weddings were such a big deal. He said that I was being too sensitive and that I should just let it go. I told him that I didn't feel comfortable having someone like her at my wedding, especially when it seemed like she was just looking for ways to make me feel bad about it. He kept insisting that she had a right to her opinions and that I should respect her freedom to express them. Now here's where things get complicated. A few days ago, Jake called me again, saying that Emily was really upset and that she felt like I was attacking her. He told me she was hurt because she thought I was being petty about the whole thing and that she was just trying to be honest. He said that if I didn't invite her to the wedding, he wouldn't come either. This threw me for a loop. I love my brother, and I've always wanted him to be a part of my special day, but I also feel like I'm not the one in the wrong here. It's my wedding, and I don't want someone who clearly disrespects me and my choices to be there. I feel like Jake is asking me to choose between him and my fiancé and a guest who has been rude to us both. I talked to my fiancé about it, and he agreed that Emily's behavior was out of line, but he also didn't want me to have to choose between my brother and a guest. We both agreed that we'd prefer a drama-free celebration, but we both think it's unfair that Jake is asking me to accept someone who has insulted us. So, I guess my question is, AITA for not allowing Emily to come to my wedding? I'm starting to feel like I might be in the wrong here because my brother is really upset, but I also don't think I should have to tolerate someone being rude to me on my special day. Edit. A few people have asked about the timeline of Emily's behavior, so I just want to clarify. This wasn't a one-time thing. There have been multiple instances where she made passive-aggressive or rude comments about my wedding plans, my family, and even me. It wasn't just the two incidents I mentioned. Those are just the most recent ones that really stood out. Also, some people have pointed out that I might be overreacting by not talking to Jake and Emily more about it. I get what you're saying, but I've already tried talking to both of them separately, and it never goes anywhere. Jake always defends her, and Emily just acts like it's no big deal. So yeah, that's where I'm at. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot and motivates me to create even more amazing content just for you. Make sure to turn on notifications so you'll never miss out on a new video. I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for your support. It truly helps the channel grow. AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law and her kids stay at my house after they showed up uninvited. So I, 29F, have a pretty small house. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, and while I love it, it's not exactly spacious. I've lived here for about 3 years, and it's been a perfect fit for me. I'm pretty laid back, but I also value my space and privacy. Here's where things start to get complicated. My brother, 32M, who lives about an hour away from me, has been married to my sister-in-law, 30F, for about 5 years. They have 3 kids, ages 8, 6, and 3. To be honest, I'm not super close with my sister-in-law. She's nice enough, but we don't have a lot in common. I love my brother, and I get along with my nieces and nephew, but I don't see them often. We're just not a particularly tight-knit family. A couple of weeks ago, I got a text from my brother asking if it would be okay for him, his wife, and kids to come over for a weekend visit. Now, I'm not opposed to them coming by, but I wasn't expecting a whole family stay. I've had my brother visit a few times before, and it's been fine. But having 5 people in my small home for a weekend sounded like it would be a lot to handle, especially with the kids. I told him I wasn't sure, but that I would let him know once I'd thought it through. The following day, my sister-in-law sent me a text that caught me off guard. She said that she and the kids would be driving over to stay for the weekend, and they would be arriving in the evening. No mention of my brother, just her and the kids. I was taken aback, honestly. I didn't know what to make of it. So I asked her if my brother was coming with them, and she replied that he had a work thing and couldn't make it, but she and the kids were already planning to come anyway. At this point, I was uncomfortable. I was not expecting them at all, and I really didn't have room for all of them. I felt a little blindsided, but I still didn't want to come across as rude or dismissive. So I told her that it wasn't really the best time, and my place wasn't big enough for 5 people. I explained that I would love to hang out with them at some point, but that having them stay over was not going to work. She didn't respond to that message right away, but a few hours later, I got a phone call from my brother. He was upset and said that my sister-in-law was really disappointed that I didn't want them to stay. He said she was feeling unsupported because they didn't have anywhere else to go that weekend. He explained that they'd been dealing with some personal issues and that this visit was meant to help them get away from everything. But my refusal made things worse. I tried to explain again that my house just wasn't set up for 5 people and that it wasn't a matter of not wanting to help, but that I didn't feel comfortable hosting them. I also said that I didn't think it was reasonable for them to show up uninvited, especially when I hadn't had any say in the planning. He kept pushing back, and it felt like he wasn't hearing me at all. He suggested that I could just sleep on the couch and let them have my bed, but I wasn't okay with that either. It wasn't just about the sleeping arrangements. It was about the fact that they hadn't even asked before deciding to come. Eventually, after much back and forth, I told him that I wasn't budging on this and that I wouldn't be able to accommodate them. He was frustrated, but eventually agreed to stop pressuring me. I thought that would be the end of it, but the next day, my sister-in-law called me. She was livid. She said that I was being selfish and unreasonable and that I was clearly not supportive of her family. She accused me of not caring about them and making things worse when they needed a break. She also made a comment about how I never offered to help and that I wasn't being a good sister-in-law. To be honest, I didn't know how to respond to that. I tried to stay calm, but she wasn't letting up. It felt like everything I said just made her more upset. I eventually ended the call because it was clear that there was no reasoning with her at that moment. After that, I heard nothing for a few days. But then my mom reached out. She wanted to know what had happened and why I hadn't agreed to let them stay over. I explained the situation to her, and she said she understood my point of view, but also suggested that I should have tried harder to make it work, especially since they were going through a rough time. She implied that I was being a little too rigid and that it would have been a good opportunity to help out my brother and his family. I tried to explain again that it wasn't just about them needing a break. It was about the lack of communication and my personal space. But my mom kept saying that family should help each other out and that I was being too focused on my own comfort. I get where my mom is coming from, but I still feel like I have a right to say no. It's not like I told them to leave the area or refuse to see them. I just said I couldn't host them for the weekend. I understand that they were going through a rough time, but that doesn't mean I should put myself in an uncomfortable situation just to appease everyone else. My mom has been kind of pressuring me to make it right, and even though I've stood firm on my decision, I'm starting to feel like maybe I missed an opportunity to be more supportive. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law and her kids stay at my house after they showed up uninvited? I really don't want to be the bad guy here, but I also don't think I did anything wrong. AITA for telling my friend I won't attend her wedding because of her maid of honor. I, 28F, have a friend, Tara, 29F, who has been one of my closest friends for over 10 years. We met in college and quickly became inseparable. We've been through everything together: breakups, job losses, family drama, and even the death of a parent. When Tara got engaged a year ago, I was over the moon for her. We've always talked about each other's weddings, and I assumed I'd be one of her bridesmaids. She has been one of my biggest supporters, and I've always been there for her too. However, things have started to take a weird turn ever since she announced her maid of honor, Lily, 30F, a girl neither of us have known for very long. Here's the thing. Tara met Lily only a few years ago through a mutual friend. I knew Lily as a casual acquaintance. She's nice enough, but I've always felt a bit uneasy around her. I can't quite put my finger on it, but something about her feels off. Maybe it's the way she always tries to one-up people, or how she's constantly name-dropping people she's met or worked with, but I just never felt like we clicked. That being said, I kept my thoughts to myself and supported Tara's decision to have Lily as her maid of honor. After all, it was her wedding, and I thought I'd be able to get over it. But it's been increasingly hard to ignore the situation lately. Lily has started to take over a lot of the wedding planning. I know that's what a maid of honor is supposed to do, but it's the way Lily does it that has been bothering me. She constantly undermines Tara's decisions, almost as if she's trying to assert some sort of dominance over the whole process. For example, when Tara picked a venue, Lily immediately suggested something more upscale and tried to talk her out of it. Tara chose a theme for the wedding, but Lily suggested a completely different one that ended up being way more expensive. Tara wasn't thrilled with that, but felt like she had to go along with it to avoid conflict. Tara has always been a more laid-back type, so I could see how easily Lily could push her around. As things started to snowball, I started to speak up a little. I try to say things like, "Are you sure you want to spend that much on decorations?" Or, "I think this idea could work better if we went with X." I wanted to help her stay grounded, especially because Tara has been stressed out with work and trying to balance everything. But every time I said something, Lily would interrupt or correct me in front of Tara. She would say things like, "I think Tara would like this better," or, "You don't know her as well as I do. I've known her for longer." That's when I started to feel like I was being pushed out. It's one thing to have a maid of honor who's hands-on, but it's another to have someone actively make you feel like your opinion doesn't matter. I kept pushing through because I didn't want to rock the boat too much, but I started to notice how much Tara relied on Lily's opinions instead of her own. It was like she had lost the ability to make decisions for herself. The straw that broke the camel's back was a few weeks ago when Tara asked me to go dress shopping with her. She had a few options in mind, but when we got to the store, Lily showed up uninvited and started taking over. She would tell Tara which dress to try on, criticize the one she didn't like, and didn't even let Tara try on some of the dresses she had picked out beforehand. It was like Lily was trying to take on the role of the bride. Tara didn't seem to notice, but I could see it clearly. I kept my mouth shut during the whole thing, but I felt uncomfortable the entire time. Eventually, Tara picked out a dress she liked, and we left. The whole time, Lily kept texting me and Tara in the group chat. Do you think Tara made the right choice? I'm not sure about that one. Tara kept replying, I love it, but Lily kept questioning it. At one point, she sent a message saying, Are you sure this dress isn't too much for a spring wedding? I could tell it was starting to get under Tara's skin, but she didn't know how to say it. A few days later, I had enough. I finally confronted Tara about how I felt, and I told her I didn't think I could be part of the wedding anymore if Lily was going to continue pushing everyone around. I explained how I felt like she was losing control of the situation and how I wasn't comfortable with Lily's constant interference. Tara was shocked. She told me she understood I was frustrated, but that she didn't think it was that big of a deal. She explained that Lily was just trying to help and that I should support her because she was the maid of honor. She also told me I should remember how much Tara had always supported me and that she didn't want to lose me over something like this. I felt terrible, but I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. I explained that I didn't want to be part of a situation where someone else was calling the shots, especially when it felt like I was being dismissed in favor of someone I didn't even know that well. Tara got really upset and said I was being selfish and petty. She told me that I was putting my feelings above hers and that it wasn't about me. It was about her happiness. The conversation ended with her saying she needed time to think things over. I haven't heard from her in a few days, and I'm feeling guilty. I've been a part of every big moment in Tara's life, and I've always been there for her. But now I'm wondering if I should have just let it go and accepted things as they were. So, AITA for telling my friend I won't attend her wedding if Lily continues to be her maid of honor. AITA for not giving up my vacation so my sister-in-law could have a better one. I, 29M, have a brother, Sam, 32, who's married to my wife's 28F older sister, Nina, 34. Now, Sam and Nina are both great people. We've always gotten along, though our families are pretty different in terms of lifestyle and priorities. Sam and Nina don't have kids, while my wife and I have 2 children, a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. Backstory for context, I'm not a huge traveler. My wife and I have always been very low-key when it comes to vacationing, preferring to save money and time for other things. However, for the past few years, we've been planning a yearly trip to the beach, a small, quiet coastal town that's not too far from home. We like it there because it's peaceful, affordable, and the kids love the beach. It's not fancy at all, but it's our go-to getaway. A few months ago, we finalized our plans for this year's trip. We booked a beach house that fits all 4 of us comfortably. Since Nina and Sam don't have kids, they've always been sort of jealous of our family vacations, and Nina has made several comments about how nice it must be to just pack up and go, and how fun it must be to have kids to vacation with. I didn't think much of it at the time. It was just harmless banter, or so I thought. Then, about a week ago, Nina asked if she and Sam could come along on our beach trip. I was surprised at first, but then she explained that they wanted a vacation, and since we had the place booked already, it would be great to just join us. She said it'd be a great way for them to bond with our kids, and she really wanted a chance to get away from their usual hectic work life. I was a bit taken aback because, for one, the house was already set up for us, and it wasn't exactly spacious enough for 4 adults and 2 young kids. Plus, Nina had never once mentioned wanting to spend time with our kids specifically. I didn't immediately say no, but told her I'd have to talk it over with my wife. My wife was hesitant, too, but didn't outright say no. She mentioned it might be a bit crowded, and we would lose some of the privacy and relaxation we had been looking forward to, but she didn't shut it down completely. However, we were both leaning toward declining the request because we really needed this vacation for our family. It was the one time of year where we could unwind and recharge. After all, Nina and Sam could easily plan their own trip, right? The following day, Sam called me. He explained that Nina had been really stressed lately and felt like she needed a change of scenery. And since they didn't have any kids of their own, they didn't usually take vacations in places that were too kid-friendly. He suggested that if we let them come, they could give us a break with the kids so we could have more time to relax. I was a little taken aback by the assumption that we would just hand over our vacation for them to take advantage of. While I appreciated the gesture of offering to help with the kids, I felt like it wasn't their place to impose themselves on our family vacation. I told him that while I understood where he was coming from, I didn't think it was a good idea to alter our plans. Our trip was meant to be a special time for our immediate family, and adding 2 more adults, no matter how helpful they were, would just disrupt the dynamic. He didn't take it well. Sam got a little defensive, saying that we were being selfish and that we could have just adjusted things a little to accommodate them. He went on to say that Nina had been really looking forward to a change of pace, and it would mean a lot to them if we made this work. I was firm in my decision and said that while I sympathized with Nina's need for a break, this vacation wasn't the right time or place for it. After all, I didn't want to jeopardize what was supposed to be a family getaway, especially for the sake of accommodating them at the last minute. I suggested that they look into booking their own trip or plan something with us in the future if they really wanted to spend time with the kids. That didn't go over well either. Nina ended up calling my wife to try to convince her to change my mind. She said it would be nice if we could share the experience and that we were being unreasonable for not wanting to include them. She even mentioned that it felt like we were purposely excluding them, given how much we value our family time. At that point, my wife was starting to feel guilty, but I stood my ground. I told her that we didn't need to change our plans just to accommodate them, and that we needed this time as a family. Since then, things have been awkward. Nina and Sam are clearly upset, and I've been getting passive-aggressive comments from both of them. Nina keeps posting pictures on social media about how badly she needs a vacation, which feels like a direct jab at me. Sam, on the other hand, hasn't spoken to me much outside of family gatherings, and there's a noticeable tension when we're all in the same room. I feel like I've made the right decision, but now I'm wondering if I was too harsh. I know that they wanted a vacation, but we've had this trip planned for months, and it was really important for us to have it be just our family. Maybe we could have been more accommodating, but I also don't think we should be expected to give up our vacation every time someone else wants a change of scenery. So, AITA for not giving up my vacation so my sister-in-law could have a better one. AITA for refusing to pay my best friend's hospital bill after she pushed me into a dangerous situation. I, 28F, am in a bit of a moral dilemma right now, and I honestly don't know if I'm in the wrong or not. My best friend, Jess, 29F, and I have been inseparable since high school. We've been through a lot together, but recently, something happened that has really shaken our relationship, and now I'm questioning if I should be more understanding or if she's completely out of line. It all started about 2 months ago when Jess invited me to a weekend trip to the mountains. It was meant to be a fun and relaxing getaway, something we both really needed since work had been stressful for both of us. Jess had rented this remote cabin, and we were going to spend the weekend hiking, doing some sightseeing, and just catching up. At least, that's how it was supposed to go. The cabin was pretty far out in the wilderness, and the only way to get there was through a narrow dirt road that was often overgrown with trees. There was a small town nearby, but beyond that, it was pretty much just nature. Jess was really excited about the trip, and she promised me that everything was going to be fine. I've been on outdoor trips before, but nothing quite as remote as this, so I was a little hesitant. Jess assured me that we'd be fine and that we could always get help if needed, which I naively took to mean she had everything planned out. On the second day of the trip, Jess suggested we take a more challenging hiking trail. Now, I'm no expert hiker, but I enjoy it, and I didn't want to be a buzzkill. The trail she picked was more rugged than I was used to, but she insisted it would be fine, and that we would be fine as long as we stuck to the path. She's always been more of an adventurous type, and I guess I trusted her judgment. We started the hike in the early afternoon, and everything was going well at first. We were enjoying the views, taking photos, and chatting about life. However, things started to go south when we reached a more dangerous part of the trail. It was a steep climb with loose rocks and very little in terms of proper footing. I was honestly a bit scared, but Jess pushed me to keep going. She was ahead of me and kept calling back, saying, "Come on, you can do it." I hesitated, but I didn't want to disappoint her, so I pushed myself to keep going. It wasn't long before I lost my footing. My foot slipped, and I ended up falling down a steep incline, twisting my ankle pretty badly. I screamed in pain, and Jess immediately turned around, But instead of helping me or trying to assess the situation, she just stood there for a moment, looking at me. It was like she didn't know what to do. She then told me, "It's not that bad. You just twisted it. We need to keep going." I told her that I couldn't walk, that my ankle was swelling up quickly, and that we needed to get help. But Jess insisted we could make it back on our own. She said we had to finish the hike because it would be too dangerous to go back the way we came. I was in pain and completely freaking out at this point. I kept begging her to call for help, but she refused, claiming that we didn't have the signal out there. She even said, "You know how much this trip means to me. If we don't keep going, this whole trip is ruined." I felt trapped and utterly alone. She's my best friend, and I didn't want to ruin her weekend, so I reluctantly agreed to continue, hoping that I could just get through it. We made our way back down the trail, with Jess constantly pushing me to keep walking despite how much pain I was in. When we finally made it back to the cabin that night, my ankle had swollen to the size of a grapefruit. I couldn't walk on it at all. Jess just shrugged it off and said, "You're fine, it's probably just a sprain." But I knew it was worse than that. The next day, I was barely able to move, and the pain was unbearable. I told Jess we needed to go to a hospital, but she argued that it wasn't necessary and that we should just go back home. It wasn't until the day after that, when my ankle had swelled even more and I couldn't bear the pain anymore, that I insisted we go to the ER. Jess drove me to the nearest town, and I finally saw a doctor who confirmed that I had fractured my ankle and would need surgery to repair it. I ended up spending the next 2 weeks recovering at home, and it was a nightmare. The pain was excruciating, and I was stuck in a cast for over a month. But what really got to me was the medical bills. The surgery, hospital stay, and rehab cost me a small fortune, and my insurance didn't cover nearly as much as I had hoped. I had to take out a loan to cover the costs, and I was really stressed about it. I didn't even want to tell Jess about the bill, but when she found out how much it was, she seemed concerned at first. A couple of weeks ago, Jess texted me, asking if I could help cover part of the hospital bill. At first, I was confused, so asked her what she meant. She told me that she felt responsible for what happened, especially since she had pushed me to keep going even though I was clearly in pain. She said she felt bad and wanted to contribute to the medical expenses. While I appreciated the gesture, I was furious. I told her that while it was nice of her to offer, I didn't think she should have to help pay, especially after everything that happened. She insisted that she felt guilty and couldn't live with herself knowing that I was stuck with the bill. I told her flat out that it wasn't her responsibility and that I was the one who chose to go along with it, even when I was uncomfortable. I also reminded her that if she had just listened to me when I asked for help in the first place, I wouldn't have ended up in this situation. Jess got upset and accused me of blaming her for everything, saying that I was being unreasonable and that I should just be grateful that she was offering to help. I snapped and told her that I wasn't about to let her pay for something that was ultimately my decision, and that I wasn't going to let her manipulate me into thinking it was entirely her fault. She got even angrier, saying I was being selfish and ungrateful. Since then, we haven't spoken much, and I'm really torn. She's been my best friend for so long, but now I'm starting to question whether she really has my best interests at heart. So, AITA for refusing to let my best friend help pay my hospital bills after she pushed me into a dangerous situation. AITA for not inviting my sister to my wedding after she accused me of ruining her life. I, 28F, am getting married in 6 months to the love of my life, Jake, 30M. We've been together for almost 5 years, and things have been great. I'm excited about this next chapter in my life, and so is Jake. We've been planning our wedding for about 6 months now, and everything is coming together perfectly. There's just one problem. My sister, Grace, 25F, is absolutely livid with me, and it's all because of our past. To give you some background, Grace and I have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, we were very different. She was the rebellious one, always in trouble, while I was the responsible one, the one who followed the rules and got good grades. Our parents always seemed to favor her, though. She was their special child, and no matter what I did, it never seemed to be enough. I know that sounds petty, but it's something that I've struggled with my whole life. I felt like Grace was always the center of attention, and I was always left in the background. Now, I know that sounds like standard sibling rivalry, But things really started to go downhill about 3 years ago. Grace got into a toxic relationship with a guy named Mark. Mark was trouble from the start, manipulative, controlling, and honestly kind of abusive. I tried to warn her about him, but she didn't listen. She thought I was just being a buzzkill, and she didn't want to hear it. Fast forward to a year ago, and Grace and Mark broke up. It was a messy breakup, and Grace was devastated. She came to me for support, as she always did when things weren't going well. But this time, I was different. I had just started dating Jake, and things were really starting to get serious. I was happy, and I didn't want to be bogged down by Grace's constant drama. I gave her some tough love. I told her that it was time for her to stop blaming Mark for everything and to start taking responsibility for her own actions. I told her that she needed to grow up and move on. I honestly thought I was being a good sister. I was just trying to get her to see things more clearly, but Grace didn't take it well. She exploded at me, accusing me of being selfish and unsupportive. She told me I didn't understand what she was going through because I was always perfect and had a perfect life. She said I didn't have any real problems, and that's why I couldn't understand her pain. I tried to explain to her that I wasn't trying to invalidate her feelings, but she wasn't having it. She stormed out of my apartment that night, and we didn't speak for months. Since then, things have been tense between us. We've barely talked, and when we have, it's been civil but strained. The real issue came up when I started planning my wedding. I sent out invites to all my family, including Grace, but a few weeks ago, she confronted me about it. She told me that she wasn't going to attend because she felt like I was ruining her life. She said that everything I had done in the past year had made her feel abandoned and unloved. She said I was more concerned with my perfect life and my perfect wedding than with being there for her. She even went so far as to say that I was selfish for getting married at all, because it would only highlight how alone she was. I was honestly taken aback by her outburst. I never intended to make her feel this way, and I didn't think I had done anything that bad. Yes, I had been blunt with her, but I thought that was what she needed. I didn't realize it had gone this far. After she accused me of ruining her life, I told her that I couldn't let her drag me down with her negativity. I told her that this was my wedding day, and I wasn't going to let her toxic energy ruin it. I told her that I loved her, but I couldn't let her hurt me like that anymore. I said that if she didn't want to be a part of my wedding, that was her choice, but I wasn't going to beg her to come. She stormed off again, and I haven't heard from her since. Now, my parents are getting involved. They've called me several times to say that I need to make amends with Grace, that I can't just throw away our relationship over a few disagreements. They say that I'm being too hard on her, that I should forgive her for the things she said. They also told me that I'm being selfish for focusing so much on my wedding when Grace is struggling. My mom keeps telling me that family is more important than anything else, and that I should do whatever it takes to heal the rift. I'm torn. I want to have a peaceful relationship with my sister, but I also feel like I've done enough. I've been there for her countless times, and I've tried to help her, but she doesn't want to listen. I've tried to set boundaries, and now she's mad at me for doing so. I understand that she's upset about the breakup, but I can't keep putting my life on hold to make her feel better. I feel like if I let her get away with this behavior, she'll never change, and I'll always be stuck in this toxic dynamic. On the other hand, I don't want to be the person who completely cuts her out of my life. I'm just trying to live my life and focus on my wedding, but it feels like my entire family is pressuring me to prioritize Grace's feelings over my own. So, AITA for not inviting my sister to my wedding after she accused me of ruining her life? Am I wrong for not making more of an effort to fix things with her? Or should I just accept that our relationship is never going to be the same? AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her kids to my wedding? I, 27F, am getting married in a few months to my fiancé, Luke, 29M. We've been together for 3 years, and this wedding has been a long time coming. I've always dreamed of a small, intimate wedding with close friends and family. Both of us are on the same page about this, and we want it to be a special, meaningful day for us. The issue started when I sent out the invites a couple of months ago. I have a sister, Emma, 32F, who has 2 kids, Charlie, 5, and Lily, 3. Emma is a wonderful sister, and I love my nieces dearly, but the wedding we're planning isn't really kid-friendly. We're getting married in a small venue with limited space, and there's no real place for children to play or anything like that. Luke and I both feel strongly that our wedding is a celebration for adults, and while we love kids, it's just not the right environment for them. When I sent the invitations, I made it clear that it was an adult-only event. I sent out a message that said something along the lines of, "We're having a small, intimate wedding, so unfortunately, we won't be able to accommodate children. We hope you understand." I thought that would be the end of it, and most people were perfectly fine with it. But not Emma. Emma was really upset when she received the invitation. She called me immediately and asked if I was serious. She told me that she couldn't imagine leaving her kids at home on the day of my wedding, especially since they were family and it was an important occasion. She said she was just trying to keep the peace by asking if they could come, but I stood firm in my decision. I gently explained that Luke and I wanted a kid-free wedding. I didn't feel like it was an appropriate setting for young children, and we planned things around that. I also told her that I didn't want to make exceptions for her kids, because that could cause issues with other guests who might feel hurt or excluded. Emma didn't take this well. She started crying and said that I was being selfish, that it was her motherly duty to have her kids with her, especially for such an important day. She told me that she wasn't going to attend the wedding if her kids weren't invited. I told her that I respected her decision, but the wedding was staying as planned. She hung up on me, and I didn't hear from her for a few days. After a few days of not speaking, Emma reached out again. This time, she offered a compromise. She said she would hire a babysitter and leave the kids with someone else for the day, but she still wanted to bring them to the ceremony and leave them at the venue after. I told her I didn't feel comfortable with that either. If she couldn't bring the kids to the ceremony, I didn't see the point in bringing them at all. The ceremony was part of the event, and I didn't want them to feel left out or confused. At this point, I started to feel like she was being unreasonable. I understand that she's a mother and that she doesn't want to leave her kids behind, but this is my wedding day, and I think I deserve to have it the way I envision it. I've been dreaming of this day for years, and it's not just about family. It's about celebrating with people who understand and support my vision. I try to stay patient, but after a few more tense conversations, Emma said she couldn't come to the wedding if her kids weren't invited. I said I was sorry she felt that way, but that I wasn't going to change my mind. The situation has caused a lot of stress between us, and other family members have gotten involved, with some supporting me and others telling me I'm being too harsh. Some say that I should just let it go and make an exception for my sister's kids, but I'm not sure if that would set a bad precedent for future events. Luke and I are both feeling the tension. We really want a peaceful wedding day, and this drama is overshadowing the excitement. I've even had family members imply that I should consider Emma's feelings more, but I'm standing firm on my decision. My sister hasn't spoken to me for about 2 weeks, and now it feels like I've lost her support entirely. I'm heartbroken about that, but I still don't think I should compromise on the wedding. So, AITA for sticking to my decision and not letting my sister bring her kids to my wedding. I know it's a big deal for her, but I feel like I'm entitled to have my wedding day the way I want it. Thanks for reading. AITA for refusing to help my brother with his wedding after he disinvited me for not giving him money. So, I, 28F, have a brother, Jake, 30M, who is getting married soon. Our relationship has always been a bit strained, but nothing out of the ordinary for siblings. We've always had the usual sibling rivalry, but we still respected each other. I'll admit, Jake and I have very different approaches to life. He's more of the live for today type, while I'm a lot more cautious and responsible. The wedding planning started months ago, and I was excited for him. I thought it would be a good chance for us to reconnect. However, things started to take a turn when he started asking me for money. At first, it was for small things. Hey, can you pitch in for the venue? Can you help pay for the catering deposit? I've always been a good saver, and I make a decent living, so I didn't mind helping out. But then it escalated. Jake kept asking for more and more money. Can you help with the photographer? I need some extra cash for the dress fitting. It was starting to feel like I was funding his entire wedding, and the more I gave, the more he expected. I started to feel like I was just a walking ATM to him. I told him that I couldn't keep up with the requests. I have my own financial goals, and honestly, I was getting annoyed with how entitled he was acting. I told him, "Jake, I can help with some things, but I can't just keep giving you money for every little thing." He got upset and said, "Well, if you're not willing to help, then maybe you shouldn't be in the wedding at all." I thought he was joking at first, but he wasn't. That's when the issue really hit. He said that if I wasn't going to contribute financially in the way he wanted, he didn't want me to be a part of his wedding at all. No bridesmaid role, no helping with the planning, nothing. I was shocked. I never expected him to respond like that, especially since I'd always supported him in the past. I felt like he was using me, and the whole situation started to feel really toxic. I told him I wasn't going to beg to be included in his wedding or try to meet his financial demands. And honestly, I didn't want to be part of a wedding where I was being made to feel like a financial contributor rather than a sister. A few days later, he officially disinvited me from the wedding. He said, "If you can't support me the way I need, then there's no place for you here." I was stunned. I had no idea that my refusal to give him more money would result in him cutting me out entirely. Since then, the family has been all over me. My parents think I should just put the money issues aside and support my brother on his big day. They keep telling me that it's his wedding, and I should do whatever it takes to be there for him. Some of my friends agree with my stance, saying that he's taking advantage of me, but others think I should just suck it up and be a part of his wedding, even if it means forking over more cash. It's been a week since the disinvitation, and I'm honestly still upset. I don't think I did anything wrong by setting boundaries. I've helped him when I could, and I'm still willing to be there for him in a non-financial way. But I'm also not going to let him use me as an ATM and expect me to just give him whatever he asks for. Now, my brother isn't talking to me, and I feel like my entire family is mad at me for standing my ground. I feel like I'm being forced to choose between my family and my own values. I've spent a lot of time wondering if I'm in the wrong here, but I can't shake the feeling that he's taking things too far. So, AITA for refusing to help my brother with his wedding and standing up for myself when he demanded more money. AITA for not attending my best friend's wedding because of my ex's presence. So, this is going to be a bit of a long one, but I really need some perspective on this. A little backstory. I, 28F, have a best friend, Jess, who has been one of my closest friends for years. We've known each other since high school, and I've always supported her through everything, from college struggles to relationship drama. She's been there for me, too, through my own ups and downs, including when I went through a rough breakup with my ex, Matt. Matt and I were together for almost 5 years. We met in college, and everything seemed perfect for a long time. But long story short, we had a pretty messy breakup. There were trust issues, misunderstandings, and a lot of emotional hurt on both sides. While I was heartbroken, I did my best to move on and focus on healing. Eventually, I started seeing someone else, and I felt like I was getting my life back on track. The problem is, Matt and Jess became really good friends during our relationship. They weren't super close at first, but over time, they developed a pretty strong friendship. In fact, after Matt and I broke up, Jess started spending more and more time with him. She always insisted that their friendship was just that, platonic, but honestly, I wasn't convinced. It felt weird that my best friend and my ex were hanging out constantly, especially given how emotional things had been between Matt and me. I told Jess how I felt, but she reassured me that I had nothing to worry about, and she'd never crossed that line. Despite my discomfort, I tried to move forward, but things didn't get any better. Eventually, Jess and Matt's friendship took on a much more casual, even flirtatious tone. At one point, I caught them texting each other late at night, laughing, and just generally acting way too comfortable with each other for my liking. I confronted both of them, and Matt swore up and down that nothing was going on. Jess said she was just being a good friend, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Fast forward a few months, and I found out that Jess and Matt had started dating. They'd been seeing each other behind my back for a while. To say I was devastated is an understatement. I felt completely betrayed. I knew my breakup with Matt wasn't easy, but I never expected my best friend to get involved with him, especially considering how much I had confided in her about the pain I felt. When I confronted Jess about it, she told me that she understood why I was upset, but insisted that they were happy together. She kept saying that I should be happy for them, that they were both adults, and that she hadn't meant to hurt me. I couldn't even wrap my head around it. I told her I needed space and that I wasn't sure if I could continue our friendship. She was incredibly apologetic, but I felt like the damage was done. We didn't talk much after that. I blocked Matt on social media because I couldn't bear to see him with Jess, and I cut off contact with her for a few months. I eventually unblocked Matt, and I tried to maintain a sense of civility, but I just couldn't be friends with Jess anymore. It felt like too much of a betrayal, and I wasn't ready to forgive her. I also began to realize that our friendship had been somewhat one-sided. Over the years, Jess had always prioritized her own needs and relationships, and when she had a new boyfriend, she'd disappear for weeks at a time. In hindsight, I don't think our friendship was as solid as I had thought it was. Anyway, after a long period of not speaking, Jess reached out a few months ago to apologize. She said she understood how deeply hurt I was and wanted to make things right. She said she missed me and hoped we could rebuild our friendship. While I was still hurt, I agreed to meet up with her and talk things through. We had a long conversation, and she seemed genuinely remorseful. Still, I told her that I couldn't just forget what had happened. I wasn't sure if I could trust her again, but I was willing to try. We started talking more, but the whole situation still feels pretty fragile. And now, to the present day, Jess is getting married to Matt. They're having a big wedding next month, and Jess invited me. When I first received the invitation, I honestly felt sick to my stomach. I haven't seen either of them together in person since the breakup, and the idea of watching them get married after everything that happened feels so incredibly painful. I have a lot of mixed feelings, but the main issue is that I can't shake the thought of how they betrayed me. It doesn't matter how much they've apologized or how much I've healed. I'm still hurt by what they did, and I feel like going to their wedding would be a form of self-sabotage. So, I decided not to go. I told Jess that I wasn't ready to attend her wedding, and she was really upset. She kept saying how much it would mean to her if I were there, but I told her that I couldn't bring myself to be in that space right now. I explained that I needed more time to heal, and I wasn't ready to celebrate their relationship in that way. Jess took it hard, and she said I was being selfish. She said I was prioritizing my hurt feelings over her happiness, and that I should be supportive of her, especially after everything we'd been through together. She told me that I was the only one she wanted at her wedding, and now she felt like I didn't care about our friendship. Since then, some of our mutual friends have gotten involved, and a few of them have told me that I'm being unreasonable. They said I should let go of the past and go to the wedding for the sake of our friendship. But I just don't know if I can do that. It feels like asking me to attend their wedding would be asking me to let go of everything I've felt, and I don't know if I'm ready for that. So, AITA for not attending my best friend's wedding because of my ex's presence? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what could be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for not inviting my brother's girlfriend to my wedding because she made a comment about my appearance. So, I, 28F, am getting married in a few months to my fiancée, 30M. We've been together for almost 5 years, and our relationship is amazing. We have a lot of mutual friends, and my family gets along with him, and vice versa. I've always been a people pleaser and try to make everyone happy. So, when it comes to my wedding, I've been trying to balance the wants and needs of both families. My brother, 32M, has been dating his girlfriend, Jenna, 30F, for a little over a year. I haven't had the best relationship with her since they first got together, but I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. She could be pretty blunt, and sometimes her comments come across as rude, but I kept brushing it off because I thought, hey, maybe I'm just being too sensitive. The issue started about 6 months ago when I was looking for my wedding dress. I'd been to a few bridal stores and found one I absolutely loved. It was elegant and simple, with a classic fit and subtle details that made it feel like me. I was feeling on top of the world, excited to show it to my family. When I did, my brother's girlfriend was there with them. At first, she complimented me, which was nice, but then she added something that caught me off guard. She said, "Oh, I didn't expect you to choose something so modest. I thought you'd go for something flashier. This is so understated, like almost too simple for a wedding dress, don't you think?" I laughed it off, thinking maybe she didn't mean it the way it sounded, but she just kept going. I guess you don't want to outshine your fiancé, right? I mean, You're already getting married to him. So why not go for something that makes more of a statement? I stood there shocked. It felt like she was criticizing my appearance and, frankly, making me feel like I wasn't good enough to deserve the kind of wedding dress that might be considered showy or glamorous. I could tell my family was uncomfortable with the way she was speaking, but nobody said anything at the time, and I just laughed it off and quickly moved on. But as the weeks went by, I couldn't shake the feeling that her comment was still bugging me. I started questioning everything about my wedding plans. Was I being too boring with my dress choice? Was I not doing enough to make my wedding day special enough for my fiancé and for me? Was my look just too simple for such a big day? It wasn't just the dress, either. Jenna started making little comments about the venue I had chosen, the decor, and the overall feel of the wedding. She even suggested I should hire a professional stylist to polish my look because she didn't think my natural beauty would be enough to compete with the glam of some wedding she had been to. At this point, it wasn't just about my dress anymore. It felt like she was constantly trying to make me feel inadequate. I got fed up and started distancing myself from her. When she would text or call my brother to talk about wedding details, I would either not respond or politely keep the conversation short. I didn't want to start drama, but it seemed like everything she said about the wedding, my look, and my choices made me feel like I wasn't enough. The last straw came when we had a small pre-wedding gathering where my brother and his girlfriend were invited. I hadn't planned on having a huge pre-wedding party, just a chance to get together with close family and friends before the big day. Everything was going fine until Jenna pulled me aside to give me advice about the wedding. She said, "Look, I just want to help you, okay? I know you're probably stressed about the wedding, but you need to think about your image. If you look a little more polished, you'll feel more confident, and it'll really show when you walk down the aisle. Trust me, I've seen a lot of weddings, and you don't want to look like you're trying too hard to make up for the lack of drama. People will talk." I was furious. I had never asked for her opinion, and I felt like I was being judged for being myself, for wanting a simple, beautiful wedding that felt true to who I am. I calmly told her, "Thanks, but I'm good. I know what I want for my wedding, and I'm happy with it." She didn't take the hint and try to push even harder, suggesting that I should look into a different dress or maybe reconsider my makeup artist. At that point, I walked away. Now, fast forward to the wedding invitations being sent out. I decided to make a list of who I wanted there, and after thinking about it long and hard, I decided not to invite Jenna. I know it might seem harsh, but I don't feel comfortable having someone there who has made me feel so insecure about the biggest day of my life. I didn't want someone in my space who constantly made me second-guess my choices. My brother is now furious with me. He says I'm being petty and that it's just a wedding and I should be the bigger person. He claims I'm alienating him and his girlfriend for no reason, especially since she was just giving me advice. I've tried explaining how her comments made me feel, but he's convinced that I'm overreacting and that Jenna just wants to help. He says that I'm being selfish by not wanting to include her, especially when she's such an important part of his life. I've discussed this with some of my close friends, and while some understand why I'm upset, others think I'm overreacting. They argue that it's just one person, and I shouldn't let her comments ruin my big day. But I can't help but feel like I'm finally standing up for myself by not inviting her to my wedding. So, AITA for not inviting my brother's girlfriend because of the comments she made about my appearance. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she made me a bridesmaid for her revenge against me. Okay, so this is a bit of a mess, and I know I'm probably going to get some mixed responses, but I'm hoping to get some outside perspective on whether I'm in the wrong here. I, 29F, have a sister, Jess, 27F, and we've always had a strained relationship. We grew up in a pretty competitive household, but Jess was always the golden child. She was the pretty one, the talented one, and for some reason, my parents always went out of their way to praise her and brush me off. I, on the other hand, was more of the quiet one, always working hard, getting good grades, but never really in the spotlight. I didn't get much attention from my parents, and as a result, I've always felt a bit overlooked in my family. That being said, Jess and I never really got along growing up. She'd often tease me, call me names, and generally make me feel bad about myself. When we got older, things didn't improve. There were a few incidents where she crossed the line, like when she told everyone at a family gathering that I was the ugly sister because I wasn't as conventionally pretty as she is. Or the time she threw a fit when I got a promotion at work, claiming I only got it because I sucked up to the boss, which wasn't true. So, yeah, not exactly a loving relationship. Fast forward to a few months ago. Jess got engaged to her fiancé, Mike. Now, when she got engaged, I thought maybe things would improve between us. I thought she might ask me to be a bridesmaid, even though we've had our issues. I mean, we're family, right? But no, instead of asking me directly, she made a huge deal out of it and told me, in front of the whole family, that she was planning on asking me to be a bridesmaid for revenge. At first, I didn't really get it. Revenge for what? But then she explained that she had some kind of plan where she was going to make my life miserable on her wedding day to get back at me for all the times I'd stolen attention from her throughout our lives. She didn't come right out and say it, but it was clear that this whole thing was more about her ego than any actual desire to have me involved in her special day. She told me that I was going to be her bridesmaid, but only as a way to show everyone that even the ugly, jealous sister could be a bridesmaid. When she said this, I was absolutely floored. I wasn't sure if she was joking or if she was being serious, but she wasn't laughing, and her face was stone cold. I didn't know how to react, so I just said, "I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that," and tried to leave the conversation. But my mom stepped in and said I had to do it because it was important to Jess, and she wanted to make things right between us. Now, I don't know about you, but being asked to participate in your sister's wedding as some kind of twisted revenge plot didn't sit right with me. I thought it was an awful idea, and it felt like a total slap in the face. It was as if Jess had no real interest in reconciling with me, and was just using me as a prop to make herself feel superior. After a few days of thinking it over, I called her and told her that I didn't feel comfortable being part of her wedding. I explained that I didn't want to be involved in something that was meant to hurt me or make me feel small, and that if that was her idea of making things right between us, it wasn't going to work. She got really upset, called me selfish, and said I was ruining her wedding. My mom got involved and basically guilt-tripped me, saying that families should support each other and that Jess was just trying to move on from the past, and that I was being dramatic. I know that family dynamics can be complicated, but I genuinely felt like this was an opportunity for Jess to try and get back at me one last time before she got married. My other family members have been somewhat supportive, saying that I should just go and make an effort for her, but I don't know if I can do that knowing the kind of underlying animosity she has towards me. I haven't spoken to her since I refused to attend, and now she's posted about it on social media, calling me out for not supporting her and making her wedding about me. There's been a lot of back and forth with messages, and I'm starting to wonder if I'm being overly dramatic or unreasonable. AITA for refusing to be a bridesmaid or attend my sister's wedding given her motivations behind it. AITA for refusing to attend my best friend's wedding because of the way she treated my fiancé. I, 28M, have been friends with Clara, 29F, for over 15 years. We met in high school and have always had each other's backs. She was my confidant during some of my worst times, and I like to think I've been there for her in the same way. We've always joked that we'd be in each other's weddings one day. So, when I got engaged to my fiancée, Sophie, 26F, last year, I was thrilled to include Clara as my maid of honor. It just felt right, and I thought it would mean a lot to her. Clara is getting married next month. Initially, I was over the moon for her and excited to be a part of her special day. But lately, things have taken a turn, and I'm seriously questioning if I should even attend. It all started a few months ago when we were talking about wedding details, and I mentioned that I was going to have Sophie as my +1 at Clara's wedding, like I would for any of my close friends' weddings. Clara didn't take that well. She actually seemed a little uncomfortable when I mentioned Sophie. I brushed it off at first, thinking maybe I was overthinking it. But then, when I asked her about bridesmaids' dresses, she made a pointed comment about how not every woman needs to look like a model at a wedding. It felt like a jab at Sophie, who is stunning and very fashion-forward. I tried to let it slide, but things only got worse from there. The real issue came when Clara asked me to help with some pre-wedding preparations. It was a lot of work, helping with decor, sending invitations, and handling logistics for a few bridal events. But there was one request that really threw me off. Clara told me that she would prefer if Sophie didn't come to any of the events. She didn't outright say it was because she didn't like Sophie, but it was pretty clear. She said she wanted her close circle there and didn't feel comfortable with too many outsiders. I was taken aback. I thought we were friends for life, but now it seemed like Clara was drawing a line between her inner circle and the people who mattered to her. I tried to talk to her about it, but she only became more defensive. She said it was her wedding and she had the right to decide who she wanted around, and Sophie didn't make the cut. I'll admit I got upset. I tried to explain that Sophie was not just my fiancée, but also my best friend, and it was really hurtful that Clara was asking me to choose between them. Clara didn't seem to care. She said I was being dramatic and that I shouldn't let it affect our friendship. But the truth is, it really did hurt. I couldn't understand why she would exclude Sophie like that. Sophie had never done anything to her, and they had always been civil when they saw each other in group settings. As time went on, the situation didn't improve. I felt like I was walking on eggshells around Clara, and every conversation seemed to be about how I was ruining the wedding by even bringing Sophie into it. I tried to be understanding, but eventually I had enough. A couple of weeks ago, Clara asked me to meet up and talk. She said she wanted to clear the air before her wedding and that she didn't want any bad blood between us. When I got there, she was almost in tears, claiming that I had been acting distant and that it was causing her stress. I explained again how upset I was with the way she was treating Sophie, but Clara basically told me that I needed to get over it because it wasn't about me. She said, "This is my wedding, and it's my right to choose who's there. If you want to make it work with Sophie, that's your choice, but you have to understand I'm not compromising for anyone." At that moment, I realized that Clara wasn't going to change her stance. She wasn't going to include Sophie, and she didn't care how it made me feel. It became clear that her wedding was more important than our friendship, and it didn't matter to her that I was hurt. I spent the next few days reflecting on everything. I talked to Sophie about it, and she was supportive no matter what I decided. But I realized that I didn't want to support a wedding where my fiancé was treated like an afterthought. So, I made the decision not to attend. I texted Clara and told her I wouldn't be able to make it to her wedding. I explained that I couldn't stand by while Sophie was excluded and that I didn't feel right being a part of the celebration when it felt so divisive. Clara was furious. She called me and basically yelled at me, accusing me of ruining her special day and saying that I was being selfish. She said I was choosing Sophie over her and that I had no respect for what this day meant to her. She also claimed that I was overreacting and that I should be happy for her instead of making it about myself. I'm torn. I've been friends with Clara for so long, but the way she's treated Sophie is unacceptable to me. I feel like she's shown me that our friendship isn't as important to her as I thought. I'm also heartbroken because I wanted to be there for her on her big day, but I can't support someone who would treat my fiancé this way. So, AITA for refusing to attend my best friend's wedding because of the way she treated my fiancé? Should I have just sucked it up and gone, or did I make the right choice by standing up for Sophie? AITA for not letting my sister bring her kids to my wedding, even though I paid for their dresses? I, 30F, am getting married to my fiancé, 32M, in a couple of months, and it's been quite the process. We've been planning our wedding for over a year, and we've had to make a lot of decisions about how we want the day to go. I'm very particular about the details and really want everything to be perfect. I know that's not everyone's style, but it's mine, and my fiancé is completely on board. The issue started when my sister, 35F, found out she wasn't allowed to bring her kids, 7F, 5M, 2M, to the wedding. To clarify, I absolutely adore my niece and nephews, but my wedding is going to be an adults-only event. I decided early on that I didn't want young kids at the wedding for a variety of reasons. Mostly because I want to make sure it's a calm, elegant environment, and the thought of kids running around or making noise during the ceremony made me anxious. We are having a fairly traditional and formal ceremony, followed by a sit-down dinner and dancing, and I really want to keep it an adult atmosphere. My sister was initially on board with this, and I thought we were all good. I even went as far as to cover the cost of the dresses for her kids because I wanted them to be involved in the ceremony. My niece and nephews are going to be flower girl and ring bearer. It felt like a good compromise. My sister's kids could be part of the wedding without disrupting the adult-only atmosphere I was envisioning. I made sure to include her kids in all the photos and gave her a few options for the dresses that I thought would look great for the occasion. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, when my sister suddenly calls me and says she can't come to the wedding unless she can bring her kids. She says she feels uncomfortable leaving them with a sitter, especially since they're so young, and that families should be together at these kinds of events. I tried to explain that I'm not banning them from attending. I'm just limiting the ceremony to the kids who have roles. She argued that she doesn't want to be at the wedding without her children because it's an important family event and it wouldn't feel right to leave them out. At first, I thought she was joking, but it quickly became clear that she was serious. I was honestly taken aback by her reaction. We've had family events before where she left the kids with a sitter, so this wasn't exactly a new thing. I told her that I really needed to stick to the adults-only rule for the sake of the event, and she started crying on the phone. She accused me of not caring about her as a mother, and that I was being selfish for not making exceptions. I told her I understood her feelings, but I just couldn't make exceptions for anyone because then it wouldn't be fair to all the other guests. It was a hard conversation, but I thought I had been clear. After that, she started getting passive-aggressive about the wedding. She made a few comments to our parents about how she wasn't sure if she would come, and it seemed like she was trying to guilt-trip me. I was really upset about the whole thing because I've worked so hard to make sure this wedding goes well, and I don't want anyone to feel like they're being excluded for no reason. I even offered her a compromise, telling her she could bring her kids to the reception after the ceremony. But she rejected that, saying it wasn't the same and that she didn't want to be ostracized for the first part of the wedding. As if things weren't tense enough, my mom got involved. She said I was being too rigid and that I needed to understand where my sister was coming from. She even suggested I loosen up on the kids' issue, but I just couldn't budge. It felt like everyone was ganging up on me, and it made me feel even more resolute in my decision. I've had some people in my life, mainly friends and my fiancée, support me, telling me that I'm within my rights to have the wedding I want. They agree that I'm not doing anything unreasonable by asking for a kid-free ceremony, but it still feels awkward. I'm the one in the middle of family drama, and I didn't want any of this to happen. Now, my sister has made it clear that she feels disrespected and hurt by my decision. She says it's my wedding, but I should have taken her feelings into consideration. I'm really stuck here because I understand her perspective, but I also feel like I've compromised by letting her kids be part of the wedding at all. I don't know if it's fair to expect her to leave her kids at home, but I also feel like if I give in, it would undermine the boundaries I've set for my wedding. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her kids to my wedding, even though I paid for their dresses. AITA for kicking my best friend out of my wedding because she made a scene over my dress. I've been friends with Mia for about 12 years. We met in high school and have always had this very close, sisterly bond. We're both in our late 20s now, and I recently got engaged to my fiancé, Ethan. We've been together for 3 years, and we've always talked about having a very intimate wedding with just close family and a few select friends. We both agreed that the day should feel special and stress-free. Mia, being my best friend, was of course going to be my maid of honor. I didn't think twice about it. She's been incredibly supportive throughout my relationship with Ethan, and I always thought she would be there for me no matter what. We had already planned most of the wedding by the time we started dress shopping. The dress shopping experience was both exciting and stressful. I knew I wanted something a bit more unconventional. I've never been a fan of traditional white wedding dresses or anything too formal, so I decided to go with a blush pink, off-the-shoulder, bohemian-style gown. It was beautiful, soft, and felt very me. It was also pretty affordable, which helped considering we're trying to keep the wedding on a reasonable budget. I brought Mia with me, along with a couple of other friends and my mom. Everyone was supportive and loved the dress immediately. But Mia didn't have the same reaction. She was quiet first, and I thought maybe she was just overwhelmed or trying to process it. I told myself to give her time to adjust because we've known each other long enough to understand that sometimes she could be a little reserved in her reactions. But over the next few days, she started acting distant. At first, I didn't think too much of it, figuring maybe she was just busy with work or stressed about being the maid of honor. But then she sent me a long message expressing how she felt about my choice of dress. In her message, she said that she felt my dress wasn't appropriate for a wedding and that it wasn't what a bride should wear. She said that while it was pretty, it didn't look like a real wedding dress, and that she didn't feel like I was taking the day seriously enough. I was taken aback because I thought we were past the point of judging each other's choices. I've never been one to follow tradition, and I didn't expect her to have a problem with it. I responded calmly, explaining that this was the dress I loved and that it felt like the right choice for me. I told her it was important to me that my wedding felt authentic and true to who I am, not just a tradition. I also reminded her that I had trusted her to be my maid of honor, and that I hoped she would support me. Mia didn't respond well. She texted back that she was disappointed in my decision and that she couldn't be a part of something that felt so wrong. She said that the dress made me look more like I was going to a garden party than getting married. She even said, "If you're going to make that kind of choice, I don't know how I can stand by you on this day." Honestly, I was crushed. Mia and I had always supported each other, and for her to essentially say that she couldn't be there for me because of my dress choice felt like a betrayal. I tried to reach out and explain myself more, but she just kept saying that she couldn't get past the idea of me wearing something so inappropriate for my wedding. At this point, I was angry, but I also felt hurt. I thought about everything we've been through, and I realized I didn't want someone at my wedding who didn't respect my choices. I knew the wedding was going to be a special day for me and Ethan, and I didn't want someone making me feel bad about it. After a few days of thinking it over, I made the difficult decision to uninvite Mia from the wedding. I called her and told her that while I loved her dearly, I couldn't have someone who didn't fully support me and my decisions as my maid of honor, especially over something that should have been such a minor detail. I told her that I would still love her as a friend, but I couldn't have her in the wedding if she was going to continue making negative comments about my dress. Mia was livid. She accused me of being dramatic and told me that I was making her feel like she didn't matter. She said that I was throwing away our friendship over a dress, and that it was ridiculous that I couldn't see how important it was for her to feel comfortable with my choices. She also said that I was being selfish and that she couldn't believe I was choosing a stupid dress over our friendship. I tried to explain again that it wasn't about the dress specifically, but about how she wasn't respecting me or my choices. She didn't seem to get it, and we ended up hanging up on each other. A few days later, Mia posted on social media about how devastated she was that I'd kicked her out of my wedding and how I was being unreasonable and letting my wedding day go to my head. She even said that I was disowning her over a dress and that I wasn't the person she thought I was. Some of our mutual friends reached out to me, saying they were shocked and that I was being too hard on Mia. A few even said I should apologize because it's just a dress. I've been feeling really torn about all of this. I've known Mia for over a decade, and I never thought we'd end up in a situation like this. But I also feel like she's overreacting, and I can't just let her get away with disrespecting my choices. At the end of the day, it's my wedding, and I want to feel happy and comfortable. So, now I'm wondering, AITA for kicking my best friend out of my wedding because she made a scene over my dress? I've been questioning whether I did the right thing, and I'm getting a lot of mixed advice. Some say I'm justified in cutting her out of my wedding, but others say I should just apologize and let it go. What do you think? AITA for not letting my sister-in-law have my wedding dress for her wedding? I, 28F, recently got married to my amazing husband, David, 30M, and we had a beautiful wedding in a rustic barn, surrounded by close friends and family. Everything went perfectly, and I was over the moon about how it all turned out. However, something has happened since then that has caused some serious tension in my family, and I'm wondering if I'm in the wrong here. Let me give some context. My sister-in-law, Rachel, 33F, has been dating her fiancé, Mark, 35M, for a few years. They've been engaged for about 6 months, and while they've been planning their wedding, it hasn't been as smooth as they had hoped. Mark's family is very wealthy, and they have high expectations for the wedding, which has caused some stress between them. Rachel is not rich by any means, and while she's been trying to work with her family to make things work, there have been a lot of arguments over the guest list, budget, and overall vibe of the wedding. A few weeks ago, Rachel reached out to me and asked if she could borrow my wedding dress for her wedding. I was initially shocked because I didn't realize we had a close enough relationship for her to ask something like that. I'm not trying to sound rude, but we've never been especially close, and I didn't think it was appropriate for her to just assume I'd say yes to such a personal request. I politely explained that I had planned to keep my wedding dress as a sentimental piece for myself, and it wasn't something I was comfortable letting go of. I made it clear that I cherished the dress, and it held a lot of sentimental value to me, especially since it was custom made for me and had so much meaning attached to it. Rachel seemed disappointed, but said she understood. However, a couple of days later, she called me again, and this time, she was more insistent. She said that she was really struggling to find a wedding dress within her budget, and borrowing mine would mean so much to her, especially since I looked so beautiful in it at my wedding. I still stood firm and told her that I wasn't willing to let go of it. I also explained that I was planning to eventually pass it down to my future daughter if I ever had one, so it wasn't something I was open to lending out, even for a day. She seemed frustrated at that point, but didn't press any further. That was the end of it, or so I thought. Fast forward to my brother-in-law, Kevin, 35M, and his wife, Emma, 32F, coming over for dinner last weekend. During the meal, Rachel brought up the dress issue in front of everyone, and at first, I thought it was just casual conversation. But then she turned to me and said, "I don't understand why you can't just let me wear your dress. It's not like you're ever going to wear it again. I'm really struggling with the wedding plans, and this could be a huge help. It's not like I'm asking you to do something huge." Everyone at the table fell silent, and it was obvious that Rachel was trying to put me on the spot. I could feel the tension building up, and David, my husband, looked uncomfortable. I was annoyed but tried to stay calm. I told Rachel once again that it was a personal item for me, and I didn't feel comfortable lending it to her. I could tell that she was disappointed, but I wasn't backing down. Then Rachel turned to David, asking him if he thought I should let her borrow the dress. David seemed unsure and looked at me for guidance. I said, "David, you know how much that dress means to me," and he nodded, acknowledging that he understood. Rachel's frustration grew, and she muttered something under her breath about how it was really unfair, especially since I had a perfect wedding and could afford the dress, while she was struggling. That felt like a jab, and I could tell she was now trying to guilt-trip me into changing my mind. A few days later, I got a call from my mother-in-law, Diana, 58F, who was also upset about the situation. She said that Rachel had been talking to her about how hurt she was that I wouldn't let her wear my dress, and that it was making her feel like I didn't care about her or her wedding. Diana told me that I should be more understanding, considering how much pressure Rachel was under with the wedding planning, and how it would be a great gesture if I just let her borrow the dress for a day. She also said that it would be a bonding moment between me and Rachel, and that it would make her feel closer to me as family. I tried to explain my perspective, but Diana just said that I was being selfish and that it wasn't just about me. It was about family and helping out when someone is in need. I felt like I was being attacked for wanting to hold on to something important to me, and I started feeling really frustrated. I spoke to David about it, and he was sympathetic to my feelings, but didn't want to cause any more drama with his family. He suggested I think about it, but I'm still firm in my decision. I don't want to let go of my wedding dress, even temporarily, for someone who isn't that close to me and who hasn't been respectful about my decision. Now, there's been some noticeable tension between me and Rachel, as well as with my in-laws. Rachel hasn't directly spoken to me since the dinner, but I can tell she's been telling people how hurt she is, and I'm afraid this is creating a rift in the family. I'm beginning to feel like I'm the villain here, but I honestly don't think I've done anything wrong. It's just a wedding dress, but it's also a personal, sentimental item, and I don't feel comfortable letting it go. So, AITA for not letting my sister-in-law borrow my wedding dress for her wedding. AITA for kicking my best friend out of my wedding after she made a scene at my reception. I, 29F, am getting married to my fiancé, Ben, 32M, next month, and everything has been going pretty smoothly. We've been together for almost 5 years, and we're both excited to take the next step. It's going to be a big wedding, about 200 guests, and I've been working really hard to make sure everything is perfect. I want it to be a celebration, not just for us, but for our families and friends too. One of my closest friends, Rachel, 30F, has been in my life for over 10 years. We've been through a lot together, and she's like a sister to me. So, naturally, I made her my maid of honor. She's always been supportive of me and Ben, and I couldn't imagine having anyone else in that role. However, things have started to get a little weird over the past few months. First, Rachel seemed a little off about the wedding plans. She wasn't as excited as I expected her to be, and when I'd ask for her input or advice, she'd just brush it off. I figured maybe she was just stressed out or something, so I didn't push it. But then she started doing little things that I found kind of strange. The first incident was when I was showing her the dress I had picked out for the bridal party. I had chosen a gorgeous dress for the bridesmaids, and Rachel seemed, well, underwhelmed. She didn't outright say it was ugly, but I could tell she wasn't happy with it. I asked her what she thought, and she just said, "It's fine." I tried to get her to elaborate, but she didn't say much after that. I thought maybe I was reading too much into it, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Then, about 2 weeks before the wedding, Rachel came to me and said she wasn't sure if she could be a bridesmaid anymore. She said she was feeling really overwhelmed and wasn't in the right headspace. I was honestly pretty hurt by this. I understood that life can be stressful, but I felt like she was pulling away from me when I needed her the most. I asked her if there was anything I could do to help, and she just told me it was nothing personal, she just couldn't handle the pressure. After talking about it, she agreed to stay in the wedding, but I could tell she wasn't thrilled. Now, the real problem came at the reception. Everything was going smoothly, the food was great, the music was perfect, and everyone was having a good time. The dancing had just started when Rachel came up to me, looking pretty tipsy. She seemed to be in a good mood at first, but as soon as I turned my back to talk to Ben, she started pulling some weird stunts. I don't know how it started, but I heard some loud shouting and turned around to see Rachel in the middle of the dance floor, arguing with Ben's cousin, Amanda, 28F. The two of them were going at it, with Rachel yelling about something that sounded like it was about me. From what I could gather, Rachel was upset because she felt like I wasn't paying enough attention to her. She was yelling that I had been ignoring her all day and that she didn't even want to be here. Ben and I rushed over to try to break it up, but Rachel wouldn't calm down. At one point, she started crying and saying that I was ruining our friendship by getting married, and that she felt like I was abandoning her. It was incredibly uncomfortable, and everyone was just staring. Ben's cousin Amanda was visibly upset too, and she told Rachel that it wasn't the time or place for this. But Rachel just kept going. She eventually stormed off, and I had to pull myself together to get back to the reception. I was absolutely mortified, and honestly, I just couldn't believe what had just happened. I didn't know if I should go after Rachel or if I should just let it go, but I knew I needed to talk to her. I gave her some space for a while, hoping she would calm down, but she kept texting me, saying that I was being too harsh and that I didn't care about her feelings. It was honestly like talking to a different person. I tried to tell her that I needed her to respect my day, and that if she had a problem with me or the wedding, she should have brought it up before. She replied saying I was a terrible friend for not understanding what she was going through. After a few hours of trying to salvage the evening, I made a decision. I pulled Rachel aside and told her that I couldn't have her at my wedding anymore if she was going to keep causing drama. I told her that it wasn't about the wedding being perfect, but I couldn't let her ruin what was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. She didn't take it well at all. She started screaming at me, calling me selfish and saying I was just like all the other people who would ditch her for a man. She made a scene, and at that point, I just couldn't deal with it anymore. I told her to leave, and Ben and I had one of the staff members escort her out. After that, I tried to focus on the rest of the night and enjoy it, but I felt awful. I've known Rachel for so long, and I never imagined that our friendship would end like this. I'm heartbroken, honestly, but I don't know if I did the right thing. My friends and family are split. Some say I was right to kick her out because she was being disrespectful and ruining the night. Others say I should have handled it more gently and try to get her to calm down before making that call. I've been torn up about this, especially since I don't want to lose my best friend. But at the same time, I don't think I can just ignore how she treated me in my wedding. So, AITA for kicking my best friend out of my wedding after she caused a scene. AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law stay with us after she gave me a housewarming gift I found insulting. I-28F recently bought a house with my fiancé, Jake, 30M. It's been a huge milestone for us, and we've been excited to settle in and start making it our own. We've had friends and family come over to visit, and things have been going pretty smoothly. That was until my sister-in-law, Rachel, 32F, decided to stop by with a housewarming gift that left me feeling incredibly uncomfortable. For some background, Rachel and I have always had a somewhat strained relationship. She's very close with Jake, which I get, as she's his only sibling, but I've always felt like she has this need to one-up me or insert herself in things that feel a bit inappropriate. It's not something I've ever directly confronted her about, but over the years, I've definitely noticed her behavior. A couple of days ago, she texted Jake asking if she could come by the new house to drop off a housewarming gift. Jake, being his usual self, didn't see any harm in it and said yes. I didn't think much of it at first, but when Rachel arrived, I was taken aback by what she handed me. She presented a small gift bag, which I thought would be something simple like a plant or maybe a candle. Nope. Inside the bag was a large, very expensive-looking bottle of perfume. Now, don't get me wrong, I like perfume, but this particular brand was one that I've mentioned before that I can't stand. It's heavy and way too floral for my taste. Definitely not something I would ever buy or wear. I tried to smile and thank her, but I could tell she was expecting a different reaction. She said something along the lines of, "I know you don't really wear perfume often, but I thought this one would be a nice touch for your new home." I told her I appreciated the thought, but that I wasn't really a fan of that particular scent. That's when the conversation took a weird turn. Rachel got defensive. She said, "Well, I thought it would be nice to have something elegant in your home, especially since I've noticed your taste in decor is a little, well, simple." She then made a point of saying how her own home is filled with high-end items that she carefully chooses for their sophistication, and that she thought the perfume would be a good way to elevate the feel of my place. I was honestly shocked. I didn't even know how to respond to that. Sure, I like a minimalist aesthetic, but it's not like I'm living in a cardboard box. I've worked hard to create a space that feels like me, and the last thing I needed was someone insinuating that it wasn't good enough. I tried to brush it off and suggested we sit down and chat, but Rachel kept pushing the issue, saying, "Well, it's just that I don't want you to feel left behind. When you have guests over, you want everything to look perfect, right?" I felt like I was being belittled, so I excused myself and told her that I didn't want to discuss it any further. At that point, Rachel seemed put off, but she left without making too much of a fuss. Jake didn't seem to understand why I was so upset, and when I explained the situation, he shrugged it off, saying that she probably just wanted to give me something nice. I told him I wasn't mad about the gift itself, but more about the condescending way she acted like she had better taste than me. The next day, I decided to go ahead and return the perfume because it wasn't something I was ever going to use. I didn't want it sitting in my house as a reminder of that awkward encounter. When Rachel found out I returned it, she sent me a text saying she was hurt by how I handled the situation and that I had ruined the gesture. This has led to a lot of tension. My fiancé thinks I might be overreacting, but I feel like Rachel intentionally tried to make me feel inferior, which really hurt my feelings. I can't shake the feeling that she was trying to remind me that she's better than me, especially when she made the comment about my home's decor. I'm just not sure if I'm blowing things out of proportion here. I talked to my mom about it, and she agrees that Rachel can sometimes be a bit overbearing, but she also told me I shouldn't let something so small ruin my relationship with Jake's family. She suggested I just let it go, but I'm not sure if I can. I don't want to make things worse, but at the same time, I don't want to just ignore how I feel. So, AITA for refusing to let Rachel stay with us after all this went down? Should I just let it go and try to move on? Or is it reasonable to be upset with her for how she treated me? AITA for refusing to attend my best friend's wedding after she chose to invite my abusive ex? So, here's the situation. I, 28F, have a best friend, Sarah, 30F, who I've known since we were 12. We've always been really close, almost like sisters. Our relationship has always been solid, and I've always supported her through everything, from breakups to moving houses to family drama. We've been through a lot together, and I thought nothing could come between us. The issue started when Sarah got engaged to her fiancé, Ben, 32M, about a year ago. I was thrilled for her and couldn't wait for their wedding. We'd talked about it in the past. She'd always said she wanted a small, intimate ceremony with just close friends and family. I was happy with that because I'm not one for big, extravagant weddings, and it seemed like a perfect fit for her. However, a few months ago, I got a message from Sarah asking if I could meet her for coffee. I thought it was something to do with wedding plans, so I agreed without thinking much about it. When we met, she told me that she'd invited my ex, Alex, 29M, to her wedding. Now, here's the thing about Alex. We were together for about 5 years, and I can honestly say it was the worst 5 years of my life. He was emotionally and physically abusive, and I ended up in therapy for months after we broke up. To say I've had a complicated relationship with him is an understatement. I didn't want to go into details, but I had explained to Sarah during our friendship how toxic and unhealthy the relationship was. She knew about the fights, the manipulations, the controlling behavior, and the times I ended up crying alone because of him. After we broke up, Alex tried to contact me multiple times, even showing up at my apartment uninvited and sending me gifts. I had to block him on every platform and change my phone number. The last time I saw him was over 3 years ago, and I've worked hard to move on from the trauma of that relationship. So, when Sarah told me she invited Alex, I was immediately taken aback. I asked her why on earth she'd think it was a good idea, considering what I had been through with him. She told me that Alex and Ben were old friends, and that she didn't want to cause drama by excluding him. She also mentioned that Alex had apologized for the way he treated me, which I highly doubted, and had been working on himself. Sarah insisted that the wedding was important to her, and that she didn't want to lose the connection she had with Ben's friends, which included Alex. I tried to explain how difficult this would be for me. I told her that seeing Alex would bring up painful memories, and that I was not comfortable being in the same space as him, especially for a celebration that was supposed to be about love and joy. I told her I wouldn't attend if he was there. Sarah got upset and started crying. She said she understood that I'd been hurt in the past, but that I couldn't let my personal issues interfere with her wedding. She said that if I cared about her, I would try to make an effort to get over it for one day. I told her that I wasn't asking her to choose between me and Alex, but I was simply setting a boundary for my own mental and emotional well-being. She got really quiet and said she needed time to think about it. We didn't speak for a few days after that, and I started feeling incredibly guilty. I love Sarah, and I didn't want to lose her over something like this. But at the same time, I felt like she wasn't respecting my boundaries, my feelings, or my healing process. It was hard for me to even consider going to the wedding with the idea of Alex being there, especially because I had spent so long trying to forget him. Eventually, Sarah reached out to me again, and this time, she told me that she couldn't disinvite Alex. She said that the wedding was going to be small, and Alex was a non-negotiable part of that. She told me that if I refused to come because of him, it would be my choice, but that it would hurt her deeply. At this point, I felt cornered. I tried to explain one last time that this wasn't just about a random person being there. This was about someone who had seriously impacted my mental health and well-being. I told her that I couldn't be around him, and that if she wasn't willing to respect my feelings on this, then I wasn't sure what to do. She said she hoped I would reconsider, but that she had made her decision. I made the difficult choice not to attend the wedding. I told Sarah that I couldn't be there while Alex was present, and that I hoped she would understand. She was devastated. She cried and told me I was ruining our friendship over something so petty. She accused me of being selfish and unreasonable, especially since it was just one day, and I should be happy for her. I told her that it wasn't petty, but that I had to protect myself, and I couldn't force myself to be okay with a situation I wasn't comfortable with. Now, it's been a few weeks since all of this happened, and I haven't spoken to Sarah much. She's been posting on social media about her wedding planning, and it's been really hard to watch. Some of our mutual friends have reached out to me, saying that I'm being too dramatic and should just suck it up and go for Sarah's sake. They've also said that it's not that big of a deal and that I'm letting the past dictate my present. But I still don't feel like I can attend a wedding with my abuser in the same room. I don't know if I'm being unreasonable or if Sarah is being unfair. I feel so torn between my love for my friend and my need to protect myself. AITA for refusing to go to my best friend's wedding because of my ex's presence. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.